Calculus has a lot to do with understanding change. When trends move faster or slower, calculus shows us how the change takes place. In the business world, trends face both fast and slow changes. New technology, growth in economy, government actions can all drastically change the landscape of entire industries, markets, and economies. Calculus usually doesn't need to be applied to make good business decisions, but it is commonly used in many scenarios. Calculus is used to predict future revenue and profits, to maximize expenses, to identify seasonal buying patterns, and to understand how pretty much any change can impact the business or economy. Understanding the kinds of patterns of change in business and other trends associated with it, and learning to use and apply calculus will prove to be very beneficial. Derivatives can also have many other applications in business, economics, and other social and commerce studies. It can be used to measure how costs and revenue are changing based on how many units are built and sold, how to distribute area in order to maximize costs when building physical structures and buying land, how a demographic is changing over time, and how profit and revenue can be maximized for a specific product. When trying to maximize its revenue, a business will also face limitations because of consumer demand. Although a business would want to see its product selling at very high prices, demand would usually decrease as the price of goods increase. In a simple case such as this, those in the business industry can construct a graph with this curve of demand to show them how to maximize their revenue. It's also important to mention that in business we come across many variables, where one variable is a function of the other. For example, the demand mentioned earlier can be said to be a function based on price. The supply and price of a product, or the cost and quantity of a product that is in demand, are some other variables. Calculus helps in finding the rate at which a quantity, whether price, supply, or demand, changes in respect to another quantity. Here are some of the applications of calculus through functions that the business industry uses. First is the cost function. This is the typical situation where you have a product and the cost you sell the product is dependent on the quantity of the product and the process in which you sell it. So the cost C of producing and marketing X units of product depends on the number of units. So the function relating C and X is called the cost function and is written as C equals C times X. Now to get your total cost, there are two parts. The first part is the fixed cost. So fixed costs usually consist of the elements in selling your product that are always there, regardless of the product. This can be cost of building utilities, methods of shipping, land, and equipment. The second part is the variable cost, and the variable costs are those that are dependent on the product, meaning things like packaging, labor costs, materials, and other aspects that are dependent on what kind of product you are selling. This gives us the final equation of C of X equals F plus V times X, which you can recognize as a linear equation. The next function is the demand function. The price of our product will fluctuate depending on the supply and demand of that product. This equation relates the price per unit to the quantity demanded. If P is the price per unit of a certain product, and X, as mentioned, is the number of units demanded, then we can write the demand function as X equals F of P, or P equals G of X. So the price P is expressed as a function of X. Next, we have the revenue function. If X is a number of units sold at a rate of P per unit, then the amount derived from the sales of X units is the total revenue, R, capital R. So R represents the total revenue from X units sold at the rate of R with a price of P per unit. So the total revenue is R equals P times X. That means that the revenue function is R of X equals X times P of X. Next is the profit function. In basic business, profit is known to be the revenue, R, of the product minus the expenses or costs, C, of producing and selling it. So if P of X, with a capital P, is the profit function, then P of X equals R of X minus C of X. Next is the break-even point. The break-even point is when the business has sold enough product that just surpasses their expenses, meaning that the net profit is zero. After this point, the business will start making profit. So the break-even point, as mentioned, is P of X equals 0, or R of X equals C of X, because at this point they're the same, hence they cancel each other out. And next, we have the average cost and the average revenue. Since I mentioned that the cost, C equals C of X, is the total cost of producing and selling X units, then the average cost, which is AC, is defined as AC equals C divided by X. And R is the revenue from selling X units of product at a price of P per unit. The term average revenue means the revenue per unit, and it is written as AR. So that means that AR equals R over X. Hence, the average cost represents cost per unit, and the average revenue is the same as price per unit. In conclusion, calculus is used to determine trends in a study, whether it be trends in health, trends on a periodic table, or trends in customer behavior. Calculus is not only evident in the financial aspect of business, rather it is used as a tool to measure, derive, and analyze trends and changes in markets and economies, as well as a way to study the ever-changing behavior of customers' wants and needs. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two about the uses of calculus and the relationship between calculus and business and economics.